Hi, Gary Lippman.
Thank you. That's my new book.
New book.
And look, I got one too.
Oh my
They
gosh,
match.
we are
Let's make
twins.
them kiss.
First of all, I love the title of this book. How many books does this make for you that you've had out?
This is my second book. It's a collection of short stories. So, my first book, Set the Controls for the Heart of Sharon Tate, that's a crazy, very fairly long novel set in Hollywood about a celebrity obsessive and the freaky people he meets who are dangerous to his mental and physical health.
So were you working on this during COVID or was this that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
started
I
to?
after I published the novel, I had different things I was trying to write. I'm an obsessive writer, and really,
I would call it talented, gifted.
thank
But
you,
you get the
darling.
job done. When you set your mind to do something, you do it.
Yeah, yeah, and you do too. I mean, you've been an inspiration to me from before we became friendly 20 years ago, because
Wow.
it's 20 years that we're friendly. Um, I Inspired by my writer friends like you, I learned long ago to keep writing. If you're a writer, write. And
Right.
so if you're not writing, at least think about it and think about what you're going to write. If you're in between projects, constantly ruminate and think about it. If you don't some days, that's cool, but you should really, you know, give it your all and let it rip as much as possible. So I've always, since I'm a kid, been fascinated by what I first began calling short shorts, like the
Hmm.
little shorts that people would wear, right? Like hot pants.
Yeah.
A book came out when I was probably in high school called Short Shorts, and it had these beautiful little stories from, the greats. And so I always remember one story I loved so much in that book that I'll tell you about because it's short, so it's a few lines. A Tolstoy story, which was called The Three Hermits.
Hmm.
And the story goes that this ship is sailing in the Pacific, and the captain says to a missionary who's on the ship, there's an island over there with these three hermits, these castaways who live there, and they're really, crazy. So I don't think we need to stop because the missionary wants to find natives of islands to convert to Christianity, right?
Mhm.
So the captain says, I don't think you need to bother with them because they're so crazy. They have like beards down to there, their hair's like that. They live on fruits and nuts and they're naked. They're such savages that I don't think they'll understand anything you teach them. But the missionary says, you know what? Let's give it a try. So the ship pulls up near the island
Mhm.
and they send a boat with the missionary to the island where sure enough, here are these three long haired, bearded, crazy, babbling, drooling hermits.
Mhm.
And so the missionary reads them the Bible, some portions that he thinks may get through to them. And they seem to understand it and they repeat the words in, their broken language. And the missionary finally realizes, even though they seem receptive, they're really not mentally or emotionally capable of grasping religion. So he says, you know what, to the captain, let's get back on the boat. This isn't going to work. You were right. Nice guys, but they're not made for Jesus, right? They get on the boat, they sail away, and that night, the captain wakes up the missionary and says, come here, come with me. And he brings him to the deck of the ship. And they look out and they see three lights coming to them, glowing lights on the water coming rapidly toward the ship at night. And they stand there wondering what this could be. And when the lights get close to the ship, very close, they look and see it's the three hermits who've been running on the surface of the water and they're glowing. And one of them yells up to the missionary on the ship, hey, missionary, we were trying to remember that stuff you tried to teach us before, and we can't remember what it was you said. At which point, the missionary, seeing these three glowing, standing on water hermits, falls to his knees and says, "There's nothing I can teach you. There's only things you can teach me. You're the true holy ones. And I pray only that you will think well of me, a sinner, compared to you." You know? And I love that story because it just, it's so unexpected, the twist at the
Yeah.
end. And it kind of, to me, I never forgot that story that I read when I was young because I just love that holiness appears where it wants to, not where we think it should be, and beauty and sacredness and value, you
And
know.
your stories in this book, which the title, "We Loved the World But Could Not Stay," which it's just like every
Thank you.
time it moves me to tears. But your book is very much full of all those values and the humor. I mean, pretty much when I got the manuscript, everything I have written, it's like laughter, funny, these different notes, and to ask it true, like I love the surrealism. Like there are stories that are very grounded in what feels like a real experience, and then you take the ecstatic truth of it, like the child that gets slapped for cursing by Mrs. Schultz
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
and doesn't cry in school, but goes home and cries so much that he causes a flood and a plumber comes and
yeah.
says, "What the fuck?"
The title is What the Word Fuck Means.
Oh,
It's only one sentence, so can I read that and then tell you
yes,
how I wrote
please,
it?
please. I
Yeah.
was hoping you would.
Let me just say that this book, about a third of the stories, as I started to say, are straight reportage. Something that happened to me, something that happened to you or a friend, anybody I know or met who's told me a story, and I thought about it and thought that'd be cool as a one sentence story. So that's about a third of the book. Another third of the stories in the book are completely made up.
Right.
I'd had an idea and it's made up from start to finish. Often those are kind of surreal or, a little fanciful. But the final third of the stories in the book, and probably my favorite third, are the ones in which it began as a true thing that either I experienced or a story I've heard, and then my imagination got to work on it
Right.
and I would change it. It's only one sentence, so it's not going to be too long, and it begins. "Did you know that the word fuck is a curse?" said the boy with the Batman lunchbox in our cafeteria on the first day of first grade. And because I thought he meant a witch's curse, which seemed intriguing, I went to confirm it with our teacher, a brutal woman named Mrs. Schultz. But because Schultz seemed to dislike hearing the word fuck spoken, at least by a child, she smacked me across the face and knocked me down, which made everyone there, including that Batman lunchbox boy, burst into laughter. And because I didn't want to let them see me cry, I bit my lip and held it all in until I got home. And my mother said, "How was school?" At which point I let go, filling our house with so many tears that when a plumber eventually showed up, water pump in hand, he looked at the knee deep flood I'd caused and said, "What the fuck?" Thank you. Thank you, Laura. So that story is true in the beginning, but here's where the imagination, God bless it, comes in. Um, I thought, you know what? What's next? What happened next? I burst into tears. That's a good ending to the story. That's the way I always told it when I tell friends the story. But a little thing turned, a key turned in my mind, and I thought, what happened next? maybe, I'm crying. Maybe I flooded the house with my tears, right? A lot of tears. Cry me a river, right? So suddenly I thought, I'll flood the house. And what happens if you flood the house? Eventually you have to get a plumber. So then I thought, okay, the plumber comes. And then I just thought, what would the plumber say when he saw all this flood that the little kid caused? And that brought me back to the word fuck. So it happened within a second that I came to the end of the real story. And then in that following second or two, my imagination got to work and just laid it out. So I wrote it and then looked at it and thought, I like that.